Many physicians start out deeply connected to their purpose, that sense of calling that drew them into medicine in the first place. But over time, the inbox grows, the meetings multiply, and little by little, the work can drift away from what once felt most alive. Before long, you realize you're doing something that's close to your calling, but not quite it. There are times in our lives that change the way we see the world. Navigating these challenges can take insight, trusted confidants, or even a coach. Let's explore those moments. In this companion podcast to RX for Success, we will discover ways to learn and write our own success stories together. I'm Dr. Dael Waxman, a physician coach with MD Coaches, and this is Life-Changing Moments. My guest today, Dr. Rebecca Evangelista, has paid close attention to that quiet inner voice that lets us know when things are no longer in alignment. She's a surgeon, educator, and leader in academic medicine who's shaped her career through a series of thoughtful pivots, each one guided by a deep sense of what truly fits. In our conversation, Rebecca talks about the courage it takes to stay true to yourself, even when that means letting go of roles or systems that no longer align, and how doing so can open space for new meaning and growth. Join us as we explore what it looks like to live and lead in a way that feels true, and what can happen when you choose to keep listening to that inner voice. So, Rebecca Evangelista, Dr. Rebecca Evangelista, welcome to Life-Changing Moments.
Thank you.
Good to have you. So you and I know each other very briefly just because we went through similar coaching training school. And in fact, I might have been one of your instructors for that at one point as well.
You were indeed.
There were a lot of people on that Zoom. Anyway, we know each other very little, but there's a little bit that I've learned about you that lend itself well to this show, which is about transitions that you've had in your professional life. And what I'd like to do, we'll hone in on some of those, but what I'd like to do just to start is for our audience is tell us a little bit about, who you are, where are you, and somewhat about your professional journey, if you would.
Sure. So I am about a little over 30 years from the start of medical school, just to position where I am in the overall picture. I went undergrad 4 years in upstate New York. That's where I'm from, New York State. And then had a year gap between undergrad and medical school. I did not get in initially when I applied. And that's a story I like to share with students who feel that if they don't get in the first time around, they're never going to get in. Don't worry, keep going if that's what you think is the right thing to do for you and for your future. 4 years of medical school in New York, and then transitioned to down in the Washington, D.C. area for general surgery residency. That took 6 years because I included a year of research training, did a year of fellowship in minimally invasive surgery, and then came back to the Washington, D.C. area for practice. Initially, I was in a private practice for about a year and a half, realized that really wasn't quite a right fit for me because I was very interested in having a formal role in medical education. So then transitioned to a job that was a split between the VA in DC and one of the university hospitals in the DC area. And throughout the next 20 years, actually had several transitions of the amount of time that I allocated at the VA and the university hospital, and then ultimately finished at the VA, was only at the university hospital, and then had several transitions in the allocation of time between clinical and non-clinical work, until a most recent transition where I've stepped away from that clinical position and going to take some time now to see where I land.
So yeah, and then that most recent was just a few days ago, as I've just learned from you before we started recording. So a lot of different sort of steps along the way, and what I want to do, what I've heard about, although I've not heard your story, is let's go back to medical school. And it
Mhm.
sounds to me like your decision to study to go into surgery actually was also, I think you said the word, it was a little bit of a surprise.
Oh, it was very much a surprise.
Just let's say
Uh,
say some more about that.
Not necessarily a welcome surprise, I will add. I had worked in that gap year, I worked for a surgeon, and I was pretty certain that that was not me. I was looking at the choices that that person made with the relationship with patients, and of course, not really knowing how they were relating to the patient one on one because I was never invited into that scenario. So a lot of assumptions on my part about what it meant to be a surgeon. So I went to medical school thinking I want to do family medicine or internal medicine. I was part of the family medicine interest group. I had a one of those forgiveness loans for general practitioner forgiveness loans, which later became a spousal forgiveness loan because I decided, yeah, we had to pay that back right quick. And really, it was through the experiences of my third year and early fourth year that I started to realize all of the incorrect narratives that I had. One about that career trajectory, and two about myself. So once I was able to manage all of those narratives, I took the pivot.
So say more about that. So
Yeah.
something, there's this sort of shift that, was
Mhm.
it a shift or more of a return to what seemed right to you?
Mm. I didn't really think that that was the right thing to do. I really thought I was not going to be able to have other things in my life. I didn't think that I would be able to have, not that I couldn't have children, but that I wouldn't be the mom that I wanted to be, or the wife that I wanted to be, or the friend that I wanted to be, or the daughter. And it took me a while to realize that that wasn't true, that I could be all of who I was and be a surgeon. That was a process.
Gotcha.
It was also a process to realize that the relationship that I had with my patients wasn't dictated by the field that I chose. I was going to
Sim-
be me regardless of what I chose to do. That really, it's a skill set. You choose a skill set to take care of people. You've already made the choice to take care of people as the foundation of what you do for your career. Then you choose the skill set that you want to do and you want to apply to take care of patients. But it doesn't dictate who you are going to be.
We'll get back to our interview in just a moment, but first, I'd like to share a message from Navigate. You know, after spending years in the financial sector, Navigate has met lots of clients with all kinds of student loan issues. They were confused, they were overwhelmed by the doublespeak and the overly complex forms, and especially the deliberately misleading statements from loan servicer representatives. Navigate recognized the chaos in the student loan industry and immediately brought clarity and real solutions. If you'd like to flip the script on student debt, visit www.flipthescript.loan/MD-coaches to schedule a call with Navigate. They'll tailor a plan specifically for your unique situation and work with you until the loan is paid off. What do you have to lose besides the stress of student loan debt?
Hi, I'm Rhonda Crow, founder and CEO for MD Coaches. Here on RX for Success, we interview a lot of great medical professionals on how they grew their careers, how they overcame challenges, and how they handle day-to-day work. I really hope you're getting a lot of great information. But if you're looking for an answer to a specific problem, management or administration challenge, or if you're feeling just a bit burnt out, like maybe you chose the wrong career, well, then there's a faster way to get the help you need. No, it's not counseling, it's coaching. RX for Success is produced by MD Coaches, a team of physicians who have been where you are. I know you're used to going it alone, but you don't have to. Get the support you need today. Visit us at mymdcoaches.com to schedule your complimentary consultation. Again, that's mymdcoaches.com, because you're not in this alone.
So something occurred for you during school that said, let me just sort of summarize this. You're doing this this gap year, you're hanging out with the surgeon, and you're noticing the other than surgery things about this surgeon, and said, this is not what I want to be, for a variety of reasons. And so sort of put that to the, like, I'm just not doing this. So in medical school, I'm heading towards primary care. And then with exposure to surgery, I guess, it reawakened, this is really what's interesting. And I can still be who I am. And I don't have to be who that person was, what was being modeled, and I can still do all the things that I want to do in life and provide a service that is more in line with what I want to provide a service around.
Yeah. I wanted to study that. I wanted to spend extra time. I was thriving. When I was on those rotations, I felt like I was thriving. When I was on the other primary care rotations, I did not feel like I was thriving. I did not really feel like I was bringing my best to patients. I had the concept that that's what I should be. It was a should.
Meaning the concept that I should be what I am meant to be, or I should be this thing that I'm not meant to be.
Yeah, I should be this thing that I'm really not meant to be, because that was, in my mind, that was the right kind of physician to be.
Uh-huh.
That a primary care provider was the best way to be with patients and for patients.
Yeah.
And it just did not resonate. It did not align with who I am.
So when you stopped shoulding yourself, and can you say something about how that happened? How did you stop shoulding yourself?
It was just the recognition of the joy that I experienced. I went this might be getting too much in the weeds, but in my third year, I literally went back to the hospital during my break and stood on a step up so I could watch an operation of a patient that I had met toward the end of my rotation. And it was scheduled then during our break. And I didn't realize that I had been standing on that step up so that I could watch for about 8 hours. And at the end of 8 hours, I said, oh my gosh, I've been standing here for 8 hours. I didn't even really realize that. Where the other rotations, I realized that the time would just go slow. It's just good. And the day just dragged on. So it was recognizing those things and how it felt.
Mm-hmm.
How do I feel? And I'd already mentioned my husband. I was married all throughout medical school, and he was just a fantastic mirror. He would be very patient. He would listen. He wouldn't interrupt if I had these shoulds or this self-concept. And then as soon as I think he saw an opportunity to dive in with some reflections, can I share with you what I'm seeing? This is when you're happy. This is when you're excited. This is when you seem to want to go and you want to be there. And having a person that you trust be able to give you those reflections.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
there's listening to that voice, listening to the body, noticing what it is that engages you, as well as having a trusted other who can mirror, here's what I'm noticing, really sort of anchored this. And then here you are in surgery residency.
Well, and this was my most important person in my life. And if this is going to take time away from us and from you, that would be a key reason not to do it. And it was just the reverse. He was very supportive,
nice,
very excited for me to do this cool surgery thing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Thank you for that. And let's fast forward as you are, you've now done surgery training, fellowship training. And I heard this other transition. And the reason I'm asking you some of these questions is a lot of our listeners are also in situations where they might feel like, I think there's something more for me other than what I'm doing right now. And you have a series of those moments in your career. The one I heard about there that I wanted to talk more about was clinical practice when you're first out and then going into academics. Can you say something about what was happening for you that created that transition?
I think it's the two major things that pushed that transition were my interest in having a formal role in medical education. And when I was in the private practice, there was a relationship with a university hospital. We had students rotating through the office. We had some students on our service. So they were with us in the operating room, but there wasn't the opportunity to really have a formal role in the programmatic aspects of the student rotation. And that was something that I had learned about myself during residency that I was really interested in, the more formal aspects of medical education. And the second part was having to worry about insurance and how to make sure that we were crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's related to all the requirements that private practices have to deal with. And in honesty, I think some people are very well suited to work through those details, and that doesn't become a barrier. For me, it felt like a barrier. It felt like an interruption in my patient relationship. I didn't want to have to worry what kind of insurance you have. And maybe that's just a reality of the world, but I wanted to be in a place where maybe I wasn't going to make as much money, but I could pay somebody else to worry about those things.
Mm-hmm. So those two pieces. One was there's this discovery when you were a resident about this desire to be working in the teaching in a teaching capacity or programmatic capacity for learners, and then there's this other part about sort of getting into practice and realizing some of the realities of those they're not quite comfortable for you, and so what else is possible for you?
Right. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, no, I just thought of, I don't know if this is helpful at all, but I had never imagined that I was, the word that came to mind is useful, that I would be appropriately matched to an academic job. I just always assumed that I was going to be working in the community. And even though I had realized and was encouraged by a mentor during residency to really go in the trajectory of medical education, I didn't even realize at that point that that was a reason to go into academic medicine. I had this very confined notion that if I wasn't doing bench research, then I wasn't going to go into academic medicine. And so I think that there's a more modern understanding and appreciation for the scholarship and the professionalization of medical education that has opened doors for people to realize, okay, I don't have to do bench research to be academic. This is very much academic. So I didn't go into my first job choices with that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I gotcha. So you're in clinical practice and you are drawn to more of the academic piece. Were there any pushes and pulls in one direction or the other? Did it take a while, or was it a fairly easy transition?
Transition to make the decision to leave private practice and seek something else. I think it was a process. There was no single moment. It was experiencing what it was like, challenging the narratives again that I had, maybe some myths of what that might be like. And I was also very young. I mean, I don't know that we do a great job, honestly, through residency programs, giving insights to residents about what all these jobs are really like day to day, year to year. At that point, you've transitioned every small, like 4 years undergrad, 4 years of med school, then you go into residency. Maybe it's kind of a longer residency. So maybe you're 3 to 7 years, somewhere in there, but you're used to having these changes. Your rotations change every 3 months. I mean, you're used to having all these changes. And then you get into your first job and you realize, wow, this is it forever, or as long as I want it to go, and nothing changes. So now it's your job to make those changes and make those decisions for yourself. And it's the first time for many of us. So what, we're in our early 30s at that point to mid 30s. That's a long time to be on a prescribed career trajectory. And now, just now, having to think through, how do I do this?
We'll get back to our interview in just a moment, but right now, I have a message for you from our friends at PracticeLink. If you're a physician considering your next career move, whether you're finishing training, relocating, or just ready for something new, make PracticeLink your first stop. PracticeLink is the leading physician job board with tens of thousands of opportunities across every specialty and in every corner of the country. You can search by specialty, location, employer type, and more, so finding the right fit is faster and easier. But PracticeLink offers more than just job listings. Our free resource center is designed specifically for physicians, and it includes expert tips on CV writing, contract negotiation, interview prep, and managing your job search with confidence. Best of all, everything is completely free for physicians. So visit practicelink.com today to explore jobs, connect with employers, and access career resources made just for you. We'll get back to our conversation in just a moment, but first, I want to mention a sponsor who has been with us almost since our beginning. Physician Outlook is a splendid publication created for physicians by physicians. Originally a print and online magazine, it's now a dynamic digital-only platform using storytelling, humor, and community building to help physicians and surgeons reconnect with the art of medicine. Physician Outlook celebrates the entire healthcare team, including nurses, nurse practitioners, and PAs who value physician-led care. As artificial intelligence and corporate overreach threatens the human connection, Physician Outlook remains committed to the sacred physician-patient relationship. Beyond storytelling, Physician Outlook takes action on causes that matter. So join the movement, connect, laugh, be inspired. Visit physicianoutlook.com today. And now let's get back to our interview.
One of the things that I notice a lot of physicians struggle with is this sense of, I'm stuck. I'm an employee of a healthcare system. I'm an employee of a academic center, or I'm an employee of this practice. And there's this, you're talking about when you leave residency, it's like, I'm now joining the real world and I'm in this practice. And there's sort of this expectation that I stay there. That leads to that stuckness. One of the things I'm hearing from you is this thread of listening to that inner voice about what fulfills me, what's giving me purpose, and being drawn to that and being okay with saying no to some of the things that you thought that you were interested in, and saying yes to things that really honor yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting that right?
Yes. The thing that comes to mind is, the Enneagram work that we did in the coaching course. And that was the first time I was introduced to that. And finding out a little bit more about myself has been very useful to reflect back and say how definitely there are things with each type that can get in your way. There are things with each type that propel you forward. And I would say that that's one of those things that I've always felt very secure that I'll figure it out. Not that I wasn't afraid to leave or had fears or anxieties or concerns or, this most recent pivot. I've been talking about this for at least 6 years. Mm-hmm. So this was not at all a sudden decision. There were moments of pivot away, and I was ready to leave this most recent clinical position. And then for other personal reasons, decided, okay, no, it's not time. And then let me adjust a few things in how I do this work so that it's sustainable. And then for a host of reasons that we can get into if you'd like, it just became unsustainable for me. It
Yeah.
was getting in my way.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we've meandered a little off of your original point, but it's always been a process, but there has been a sense of security. I will figure it out. It's all going to be okay. I talk to student groups all the time. It's very rare. I talk with faculty too. The sky does not fall, turns out, and the ground does not open up and swallow you whole. We're more stable than I think we give ourselves credit for. And there's no one perfect scenario. Today is living proof that you can leave a job that you've had for nearly 20 years and it's all going to be okay.
Yeah. So I think listeners need to hear just a little bit about that. And you didn't meander. You're kind of in that place where I think we were heading. So say something about your current reality this week.
Mm-hmm. So I made a decision based on how the scope of what I was doing in general surgery. I used to have a wider breadth of what I was doing. As the healthcare system that I worked for matures in its business and in its position in the region, like many other healthcare systems, they want more narrow scopes of practice. They want people to be very expert in what they do. And I don't think anyone would disagree that it's in part to be marketable, to compete with other healthcare systems in whatever region they're competing against. But I went into general surgery because of the breadth. That's one of the reasons I went into it. And my husband says all the time, I would have been a perfect general surgeon in a rural community. And he's probably right. I mean, from just the clinical standpoint, that's probably accurate. I see everybody in the grocery store. Hi, I know folks. I'm, part of the community. Like that probably would have been the blend of what I thought I wanted to go into primary care for and the way I wanted to interact with the community and patients. But life brought us to a big city. And then this other part of my interest, which was kind of a surprise to me, which was the academic piece. You're more likely going to be in a larger area. So the reality of being in that larger area is that the scope of your practice becomes more narrow. And it got to a point where I realized, wow, what I do, I can do anywhere. I would like to focus my care on underserved populations. How can I do that? I proposed a few different options to my healthcare employer, and for other reasons of how they want to restructure business models within the scope of the broader scope of surgery in the organization, they said no thank you. And they said, we really want full time. A big part of my career is the non-clinical work that I do, and that's continuing to grow. And so I said no thank you to their offer to be their full-time clinical. And it was a very amicable separation. I've told students it's a conscious uncoupling. Many of them have no idea what I'm talking about. And then that helps you realize how old you are. They don't even know the reference. I said, Coldplay? No, I don't know. But that's it. Really, what it felt like. It was very sad. I will tell you, it was very, very sad, and absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah. All of us go through chapters that close, whether we were involved in closing them or they were closed for us. I want to really kind of highlight or illuminate something that we chatted about before we got recording, which is about this. The way that you just phrased that and talked about this, the trajectory of you and the trajectory of the organization that you worked diverged.
Yes.
And you're able to actually see that and language it in that way because you experience it in that way. You use the word align. I'm not necessarily where I'm heading isn't aligned with the direction that this organization is heading. I know from what you said before that likely this was not a epiphany that you woke up one day. You said this took it was a 6-year process and it's not like it necessarily was painful for those whole 6 years, but there was this winnowing, if you will, or this increasing clarity that we're not going in the same direction. And that doesn't mean they're bad or that you're bad. It just means that we're going in different directions.
Yeah, the divergence just became wider and wider and wider. You rewrite the narrative in your head when the alignment just gets a little bit shifted. When all of a sudden there's these little pivot points, you rewrite the narrative. You say, okay, well, maybe I can pivot a little closer to how they're aligned so that I can keep going and we can keep working in parallel. And I think I did that several times until they were so far apart that I would have had to change who I am to align, which I'm not willing to do. Also, what you are hearing is a lot of processing of the emotional parts that didn't have the language. And the language is so powerful. When you can put words, when you give yourself time to sit in the emotion, you find the words. And when you find the words, then you can go into action.
I'm imagining most people view you as having been a busy surgeon, busy academic. And I know that I hear this from clients is that where do I find the time to sit in the emotion or to sit and explore and examine? How did you do that?
You don't have a choice. If you're not sitting in the emotion, you're just ignoring it. You're covering it over and you're not allowing yourself to live in it, I think. I mean, it happens. We don't control the emotions. They happen to us, and we can either embrace them and learn from them, or we can cover them up, ignore them, and look the other way. I would encourage everyone to find the time. I don't know you don't need a ton of time. Sometimes it's a 15-minute walk. Sometimes it's listening to music that matches your emotion on the way home in the car. Whatever helps you process your emotions. I think we all have a sense of that. We may not have put language to it or recognized it and said, oh yes, this is how I process emotion. But if we just take a couple of moments and think, what do I do? When emotions come up for me, what do I do? Do I want to be in quiet? Do I want to talk with people? How do I process that? And how can I give myself time? I feel like I need to give my husband a ton of credit here. I mean, he's heard a lot of stories. So I have someone who helps me process, someone that I trust, who helps me process and is a reflection at the same time.
Well, Rebecca, so you've transitioned, you had so what's next for you?
I will say I feel very fortunate. The work that I have done for the university, the leadership there wants that work to continue. So they've suggested a part-time position there so that I can continue that work, which I'm thrilled about. I love doing that work, and it will open actually other doors of similar work at the university that I would not necessarily have been invited to do because I wasn't an employee of the university.
And do you mind saying a little bit about what that work is?
Sure. So I am the Associate Dean for Clinical Faculty. We've got an Associate Dean for Faculty Development that has been at the university for quite some time at the medical center. This job was created, give myself a little kudos. I created this job in collaboration with others, but created this job because I saw a need for our clinical faculty that were not employed by the university and were not getting a direct connection to the university. The university didn't necessarily know how to navigate to our clinicians that are off the campus, and in some cases, an hour and a half away. And so I saw an opportunity to provide that bi-directional connection. If you hold a faculty appointment, you should feel like you're part of the university. Mm-hmm. And the university has a responsibility to reach out to you and make sure that you feel connected. And so then under the scope of that, there's the logistics, appointments, promotions, and those types of things. And then there's a lot of other faculty development work, mentorship programming that we do. And I get to work with these two amazing people at the university. And it's in those collaborations that the work is so much more than anything I could do on my own. And so that's my favorite kind of work, is when I get to work in a team where we throw out ideas, we're polite to each other, but we don't worry about having someone say, "Oh no, that's a terrible idea." And then we can come up with this really amazing end product because we're all non-judgment, providing sort of some intellectual property to the project.
You're using the word non-clinical, but it's a academic. It is a supportive of the faculty, supportive of the people who are carrying on the academic mission.
Thank you. You just taught me something. So isn't that funny? So for this 20 years that I've been working for this clinical enterprise, that's how I've been thinking about it. And so maybe it's time for a language shift for me.
Well, there you go.
Thank you.
I'm always aware of this non thing,
Yeah.
like I was in family medicine faculty for many years, and there were the non-physician faculty. I'm like, I don't want them to be. They're not a non. They are something. That's just my little language thing. Anyway,
wow.
It's not about,
thank you.
Yeah. So, Rebecca, as we close out, you've just by our conversation have imparted a lot of wisdom, experience, and some lessons for our listeners. Is there anything on your mind right now that, from your experiences, especially of this category of pivoting from one thing to another or moving from one thing to another, anything that I haven't asked you about or you haven't shared that you feel would be important for listeners to hear?
The one thing that I would like to add, and I think we've touched on it, but I think saying it succinctly is valuable. I think when you go into medicine, you have this concept, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, that it's a very rigid structure, and I must follow the recipe, and I must fit it. There's plenty of ways that you can be who you are and take care of people for a living. And so I would invite all of your listeners to be fully who they are. People need you. People want you to be their physician in whatever capacity, whatever blend that is.
They're wonderful words of wisdom for us to end this delightful conversation by. So, Dr. Rebecca Evangelista, thank you so much for being with us on Life-Changing Moments.
Dael, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Life-Changing Moments. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate us 5 stars and leave a review. Doing so helps our podcast reach more listeners. Have something to share? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Visit the MD Coaches community on Facebook groups. This dynamic virtual space is a place to continue discussion about life-changing moments and perhaps share some life-changing moments of your own. Join the conversation today.